Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're grinding out bicep curls or muscling the couch across the living room, crushing morning miles, or sprinting through back-to-back meetings, Smoothie King has fuel to help you maximize your workouts, own your recovery, and elevate your game. Give your body the energy, protein, and power it needs with a lineup of delicious smoothies made to help you conquer your goals. Only at Smoothie King.
Going to the gym can be discouraging, especially if you're putting in the work but barely seeing changes. But with Tonal, you can actually see your progress with every workout. Tonal provides the convenience of a full gym and the expertise of a personal trainer anytime at home with one sleek system. Designed to reduce your mental load, Tonal is the ultimate strength training system, helping you focus less on workout planning and more on getting results. No more second-guessing your technique. Tonal gives you real-time coaching cues to dial in your form and help you lift safely and effectively. After a quick assessment, Tonal sets the optimal weight for every move and adjusts in 1 pound increments as you get stronger, so you're always challenged. Tonal lets you choose from a variety of expert-led workouts, from strength to aero hit to yoga and mobility, to keep you coming back for more. For a limited time, go to Tonal.com to get $500 off your Tonal purchase, plus a free 4-year warranty. That's Tonal.com for $500 off, plus a free 4-year warranty. Tonal.com.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Let's go some Maple Leaf talks in your ears for the Wednesday night. Let's get it rocking. Let's get it rolling. Slide on over the microphone and get everybody involved. I know we got a great guest tonight, and our friend Steve Peters, a.k.a. Petey, as everyone is now getting to know him online. Great breakdown videos of your favorite team, whether it be the playoffs, whether it be a player you're wanting to know about. He has the breakdowns for you. But before we get into that, let's get into the rest of the topics this week. Obviously, the Kadri rumors. Reeves, Mitch Marner ducking the media. It's going around on social media right now. They're in Boston the night before, which means no morning skate the day afterwards. That's all right. Hey, listen, I'm thinking we're still going to get some Mitch Marner questions in there. And, of course, schedule, peaks, and more coming up for this one. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get on that fresh sheet. The Zamboni just got off the ice, and this is what it is. Today, the schedule dropped. I want to hear it. Drop the comments down below, whether it's YouTube, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's over on TikTok. I want to hear what your date is for the Maple Leafs. A lot of people circling the Vegas games for Mitch Marner. For me, it's all 82. I love every single game. I watch every game. I'm a fan at heart. I like covering the team, talking about the team, but I mostly like watching the games and getting excited for each and every one because there's something different for every game, and we want to see guys come into their own more and more throughout the season. But I want to hear your schedule perks. I want to hear what you guys want to see this season. So drop those comments. Let me know. We'll talk about more of those next week. But the Marner return game, we have to wait a little while. It'll be cold. It'll be a long time. But I look at it like this and I say, hey, we get Mitch Marner at home after a Boston game. Maybe he'll be tired. The Vegas Golden Knights a little depleted. Maybe the Maple Leafs can lick their chops a little bit and get a victory against Mitch Marner and the Vegas Golden Knights. Maybe even we get a little reverse juju. We all know how former Maple Leafs score against this team. Maybe Mr. Nicholas Roy, however you'd like to pronounce it, comes in and scores one himself against his former team, and the Leafs put on a clinic that night against Vegas and show the fans and everyone, we don't need you. Because you know that will be a chant that will happen, much like when John Tavares went back to Long Island. Same thing, same chant. I expect it from Leafs fans, even though a lot of Leaf fans apparently wanted this guy to go. That's what you're going to end up hearing. It's going to be that thing where you look at it and say maybe 5-6 years from now, we miss Mitch Marner. A lot like the fan base right now is clamoring to have one Nazem Kadri back in this lineup. Everybody with the nostalgic feels, posting the pictures, everyone hanging off of Naz's words during a recent interview where he said, hey, yeah, I hear about it. Let's talk about it. So for me, it's like, okay, guys, we'd love to have Nazem Kadri back on this team. We would, because nostalgic feels, everything feels good. He'd look good down the middle with this squad, Matthews, Tavares, Waugh, Kadri, you name it. That center position looks a lot deeper with Nazem Kadri there. One thing that also looks a lot deeper is the cap hit on Nazem Kadri, and we live in a cap world. Getting this gentleman into our lineup, fitting him in under those cap structures is not going to be easy, and we all know that Calgary and Toronto right now, with Treliving being the GM, leaving Calgary, they're not going to do him any favors. They're not going to make this easy to get Nazem Kadri to be a Maple Leaf again, and they're not going to make it cost-effective, asset-wise, to make that happen either. So I don't think the Maple Leafs have a huge vested interest in making this happen to bring Kadri over and make him a Maple Leaf again, when it will not only cost cap space, which they just so happily got with Mitch Marner going out the door. They aren't going to want to use that all up on Nazem Kadri at this age and this stage of the game. I think if he was a lower cap hit, or if he was coming up as a UFA, where you get 1 year as a big contract and then maybe a littler contract going forward as he signs a sweetheart deal with the Leafs to end his career, maybe that's something the Leafs would look at. But right now, we are not there, folks. So right now, it's sunshine and rainbows to think about, but to physically make it happen, it is not a thing. It will not happen. Like I said, Calgary is doing no favors to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And same to be said about EK65, you're not getting Erik Karlsson from Kyle Dubas. This is another player for me. I don't know why a lot of Leaf fans are clamoring to get him. I understand the puck moving ability. That's great. We have one at home. His name is Morgan Rielly. Let's see him on a bounce back season with Brendan Carlo. I think that is more realistic than going and getting an aging Erik Karlsson and putting him on this blue line. Whether you get a little retention there from Pittsburgh or not, to me, it's not worth the assets yet again to bring in a guy like this. I know everyone gets excited about name value. Erik Karlsson, again, is an older player. Is a player that, to me, yeah, great. He had that Renaissance season not long ago. I'm not betting on that happening again with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm more betting on a guy like Morgan Rielly to bounce back with a steady defense partner instead of the revolving door that he's been dealing with. And I think that will calm his game down. And you'll see Morgan Rielly step up this season and really put some point totals on the board with a guy like Brendan Carlo strapped to his side. But we will see there. Ryan Reaves, folks. Reavo. We loved him. He came in with the big Papa Pump arms and, laughing about what Gudas did to Wool and saying, I'd love to see him try it. We were all excited. We were all enamored. We were fired up. We wanted this guy to be the face-pounding guy that we wanted for the Maple Leafs to protect our stars. He tried. He came. He fought 9 times in 2 seasons. Not a whole heck of a lot for what you were brought in for, if you're asking me. And we all know Reavo had the knee issues. And those things were something that really hampered his game throughout his time here in Toronto. And when he came back from that one issue that he had first season with the Leafs, where he was healthy and he let everybody know he was healthy, but the Leafs just weren't putting him back on the roster. When he came back, he was effective down the stretch. I will say that. But he's not a player I think the Maple Leafs need. And if you go and sign a Pizzetta, even though everybody's saying, well, this guy's a punching bag for the league, for me, you have that replacement already. He can do Reeves-level kind of stuff, in my opinion. But the comments going out the door by Ryan Reaves about talking about how he advocated for Mitch Marner to go to Vegas and talking about how good it was there and how the lifestyle is there and how this is there and that is there, it just really didn't fit for me. And Brad Treliving said the same thing. Got him out the door, shipped him over to San Jose, got a defenseman for him, one that we'll see. I mean, it's kind of a roll of the dice kind of guy. He has some NHL experience, but we'll see where he fits with the Maple Leafs. And a great guy to talk to about that will be our friend Steve Peters here in just a couple of moments. But for me, Reavo kind of, I guess, overstayed his welcome, in my opinion. He wasn't bringing what he was brought into the lineup. And then those comments and things like that, I'm sure there was stuff at the exit meeting where Reeves said, hey, it's not a fit for me. The Leafs said probably not a fit for us either. So the writing was on the wall. So Reeves felt, compelled to speak his mind, which he does. And that's one of the things we loved him for, was having that voice. But at the same time, I made a post over on Twitter saying, if the crest is too heavy, if the pressure is too much, if it's too much for you to play for the Maple Leafs, pack yourself and go. And for me, that goes for any guy up and down the roster or a part of the organization. It should be a privilege to pay for any of the 32 NHL teams, let alone one of the original 6, let alone a team in Canada, where hockey is basically front of mind for almost every person. So if you don't like it here, if you don't like the spotlight, for me, I'm always the type of guy, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I want guys who want to be here. You see the new young guy they got from the Utah Mammoth, and I will butcher his name, so I won't even say it. But I'm excited for him to come in. He wanted Toronto to trade for him. You got Wah, who grew up wanting to play for the Leafs. Pizzetta, same thing. All of these guys saying all the right things, wanting to play here, seeing how it is here. I like that. Steven Lorentz, excited to re-sign with the Leafs. That also gets me fired up. So a couple of quick things to go through quickly here. For me, the standout is shout out to that new young player we got from Utah. For me, this kid here, he's excited. He wanted to be traded here. He wants the pressure. He wants the opportunity. A lot of people, including my guy Petey, saying this guy has the opportunity, the chance to maybe become an elite passer with some of the players he might play with. We'll get more of a breakdown on him in, like I said, a couple of moments, but I want to give him a shout out. For me, the other shout out is for the social slapshots this week is every single NHL team's social department. Why do I say that? Social media. Look at the way the schedules were rolled out. Everybody had a creative way to do it. Some had creative shots at the Maple Leafs. I look at the Buffalo Sabres with the chicken wing saying choking hazard. You got to know your audience, and obviously the Buffalo Sabres social media team understands that, but I love the way this was rolled out. It was fun. The Maple Leafs went with dogs that could be adopted. That is absolutely awesome. I love this being broken down, and I think sometimes when you're running a social media account, you catch a lot of flack throughout the season, whether it's a player leaving, something happened, team on a losing streak. The social media people kind of take it on the chin because they're posting for the team, as the team. And you'll see a lot of posts of people saying, hey, I'm just the social media guy. Or some play into it and say, you know what, beat up the social media guy because the team isn't getting it done or whatever. But I want to give the shout outs and flowers to them, obviously, because today's your day. You're releasing a schedule, but in a fun way. Everybody was involved. Everybody was talking about the different dates, different videos, different concepts, different way we put out there. And as someone who does social media stuff, and I'm sure my guest here soon will say the same thing, getting these things out there in front of people's eyeballs in a way that hasn't been done before is difficult because many things have been done. Everything under the sun has been touched. So just to have a little flair and fun with it, I wanted to give some flowers there and just say, hey, great job on the schedule release. But before I go any further, I got to say this. We got the guest bench. He's been on a few times on the show. We've had to push this one a few times because this guy right here, super sleepy wedding stuff. Not my wedding, but just tired as can be. I finally had a couple cups of coffee, a few extra hours of sleep, and we are finally getting this done. I enjoy picking his brain and talking about topics. So let's get him on without further ado. My friend, Mr. Steve Peters, here he is joining the show. What's going on, buddy?
James, I tell you what, I've been here from the beginning of the show, and I said this every time, still the best open on the internet. That YouTube open you have.
That.
Absolute fire, James.
Oh, listen, you got to get a little fired up sometimes, you know.
That's
obviously it's the off season. Everybody's kind of a little sleepy on hockey, you know. Schedule release day kind of gets the juices flowing a little bit for September, October, but we are still in July, so it makes it difficult. So obviously, if you can get a little bit of juice going for the intro, everybody starts watching.
Exactly. And I tell you what, scheduled day is a big day for everybody across league, for fans included. But I remember when I used to work for the Coyotes, scheduled day was always, you looked at a few key days. You looked at American Thanksgiving, you looked at Christmas break, where are we? And you looked at the All-Star break, are we on the road? And we invariably, the league would always put the Coyotes in Buffalo right before we fly home for Christmas, the longest flight in the country. But it's an exciting day for fans and teams alike.
No, it definitely is. Obviously, you start picking out the dates today. Maybe you might be traveling to your favorite team city if you're not in the local market, or if you're looking for a key moment for a player coming back like Mitch Marner, Ryan Reaves, or whoever else you might be wanting to see. But yeah, it starts to get, like I said, those juices and wheels turning of what we're going to be doing with this team.
James, James, just let me interrupt there. Where are you going to watch Ryan Reaves? In the press box? Are you going to meet him in the parking lot as the team gets off the bus? Dude ain't playing.
Listen, I'm going to scrum it up with him right in the middle of the parking lot. We're going to have some words now.
Dude, he ain't playing. There's no chance. What are you going to? He's
Listen, well, you know what? Here's the thing. He's about 88 games, I think it is, away from 1,000. His goal is to hit the 1,000 mark. If the Sharks are not going to be a playoff team this season, I can see him getting into more games there than he would in Toronto. I could see him protecting the young players that they've brought in there and maybe serving that role more West Coast style and, being maybe the policeman on the bench there a little bit more. But we wanted that in Toronto, and it wasn't really a thing. Like I said, throughout my little blurb there, 9 fights in 2 seasons is not exactly instilling fear in everyone who steps on the ice.
Yeah, and you got to do more now. Like, this is 2025, 26 now. Like, that doesn't exist anymore. The stage fights off the face. I've gone about this on the internet many times. I don't like the stage fights. Hey, buddy, let's fight, and then we'll give a thumbs up in the penalty box. Dude, you run my goalie, we're gonna fight. You cheap shot one of my young players, we're gonna fight. You get your sticks up, we're gonna fight. Like, that's where fighting is necessary in hockey. I think the self-policing, it's incredibly important. The problem with Ryan Reaves, like a couple of things, and I think there was a value for Ryan Reaves years ago. The problem right now is the guys that can fight and get those majors are also guys that can skate. And the guys that can be of value offensively. Unfortunately, those days are past for Ryan Reaves. And you look at him in San Jose, I just do not see a matchup where who the hell is he going to fight? There's nobody in the Pacific Division that's going to drop the gloves with Ryan Reaves. If I'm on the bench of the other team, it's like, dude, let him play. Stay out of his kitchen and let him play. I will say, to your point, though, yeah, you're right. If Michael Misa makes that lineup in San Jose, if Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith and all these young kids, you're right. Don't take liberties. Look what's coming over the boards if you do. But let's face it, I'm with you all day long on this, James. I just don't see a guy that plays 8 minutes a game being valuable and no time in the playoffs. Like, dude, you're going to put him in the playoffs when you're trying to play with speed and pace? You can't. So yeah, I was surprised at the comments as he left the door. Just leave, dude. Just leave and go try to do something somewhere else. And don't take it out on your former team. I thought that was poor.
Well, for me, I look at it like this for Ryan Reaves in those comments. I think it's maybe a little sour milk on his side. Because I really don't think he wanted to leave. I think he did like the fact of being a Toronto Maple Leaf. And I think whatever was said in the exit meeting, whether he's saying it's amicable, but both team and player thought the same way, maybe the team came out first and said, hey, maybe there's not a spot for you here. We can look to move you. And, he kind of rolled with it. But obviously out the door, leaving, didn't like it so much and was letting his feelings be known. And also talking about how he told Mitch about Vegas and how great it is. Those are things that you say when you're kind of dealing with some hurt emotions, hurt feelings.
Yeah, and I agree. And you look at that. You think I'm looking at Matthew Olivier, who's for Columbus has the most fighting majors in the league last year. He got 18 goals. And I think you have to have some value to your team if you're going to play that way. So I don't think that's a big loss for Toronto. Not a big loss at all for Toronto, letting him move on.
No, well, like I said, we signed Pizzetta. Pizzetta was a replacement for him. He may not be the same caliber of fighter, but at the same time, he's a guy that can come in and dust it up and play those minutes if you need to, and may also be able to play more up the ice than just that one element of his game.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be another player that probably isn't getting a lot of ice time and playing a lot of games. But when you do need him, you have the ability to throw him in the lineup. And we know this. There are nights when you're going to need a player like Michael Pezzetta, that he's going to have to show up and play, and he's going to have to show up and do his job. But he's not a guy that you're going to see playing 80, 72, 75, 80 games next year. He's going to pick his spots. He's going to find some ice time, but he's not a guy that I think is going to be a big factor in this Toronto Maple Leaf Hockey Club next season.
No, I don't think so. And I think for maybe stints of this season coming up, he might actually be an AHL player. Opposed to riding the bench or being up in the press box. He may enjoy some time down there just to get the ice time and keep the legs going, and maybe a guy who is more willing to do that than Ryan Reaves was.
For sure.
So for me, I want to ask you the question. We were talking during the playoffs, Game 3 against the Panthers. I thought this team finally figured themselves out, but 3-1 became a Panthers victory in Game 3, and we all know what happened with that series. Game 6 was lightning in a bottle for one game. You'd figured they'd maybe replicate that for Game 7 and use that as motivation. I want to know, what are your thoughts on this team not getting it done in Game 3 and not getting it done for that series, because they were in control and they, for lack of a better term, Petey, they pissed it away.
Yeah,
they really did.
It's hard because I went and rewatched some of Game 3 today, and watching this as a Leaf fan, that's painful. And they start off buzzing in the first minute, and things were going well, and they're getting pucks to the net. They're on the road, and they're taking advantage of a team that really hadn't come off the ropes in the entire series. And they had the Panthers. The problem is they're still the Panthers. And I think what separated these two teams over the next few games, I do agree. Game 3 was if Toronto gets that one, this is a tough hill to climb for Florida. Not an impossible one, but a tough one. If they can find a way, and I know there's the Stolars versus Woll debate, and we could go about that all night. But Woll wasn't his fault. Well, the wrist shot from the top of the circle might have been. But the point for me with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and fans aren't going to want to hear this, but it's the little details that I don't think that they carried through for 60 minutes during the game, in Game 3, in Game 7, in Game 5. And I'm talking, watch the Florida Panthers against the Edmonton Oilers. It's every play away from the puck. It's making the line change at the right time. It's getting the puck off the glass when it needs to go off the glass. It's dumping the puck in over the blue line when it needs to be dumped in. On that game in Game 3, Matthews is on a 2-on-4. It turns it over and ends up in the back of the net. Dump the puck in. Yeah. You see Nylander at the red line ahead of Ekblad, or excuse me, it was Jones, ahead of Jones, but Jones beats him to the puck, goes in, shoots and scores because it doesn't back check. It is the littlest of details that Toronto just never cleaned up. That there were just I don't want to say quit, but it's just not that their feet are always moving when they're away from the puck. I tell you, give William Nylander the puck, dude's flying, absolutely flying. Back checking, maybe not so much.
It's hit or miss.
Yeah, and until you get those details down where you do things right, and I mean everything right, it is the difference of winning or losing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I mean dumping the puck off the glass, using your stick instead of using your skate. All of those little minute details over time make the difference. And I think that was the problem for Toronto. I just don't think there was enough consistency in all of the little details that made the game successful for them. I think they were great when they had the puck. I think they were great around the opposing net. I think they have high skill on the power play. All of those things are true. It's the things away from the puck that they need to be better at if they want to finally get through and get an opportunity to play for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. And I screamed it throughout the playoffs for the Leafs. And you can go back and look at the post. I was saying every single time when I did my little intermission updates is simple, smart hockey. It'll win you the game. It won't cost you the game. It'll win you the game because you're chipping it out right. You're getting it out of your zone. You're making the smart pass, not the dangerous one. You're not doing the sexy things, but it's the dirty, hard-working things that end up being the big things. And as we've seen for the Leafs, that is what cost them. Some of the dipsy doodles, some of the taking an extra second to either admire your pass or think about what you're going to do, and it cost the Leafs. One thing Luke Shen said about this team when he was here in the playoffs was they were allergic to putting the puck off the glass to get it out of their own zone.
Yep.
The simplest thing you can do.
Always looking for the play. Always trying to make the better play and be the fancy play. And it's unfortunately, it's part of the DNA of the Big Four is they wanted to make that play. You want to make the big play. And that's where I say when you go, and again, the gold standard in the National Hockey League right now is the Florida Panthers. It just is. And watch how they play. If the play is there, they make the play. If the play is not there, they dump the puck in. And you know what? 8 out of 10 times, doesn't matter. Nothing happens. The puck goes over the glass and there's a whistle and everything's fine. But it's that 9th and 10th time that makes the difference in the game. And if you don't do it consistently all the time, the right play all the time, that's when you're going to make a mistake that gives the team an opportunity to put the puck in your net. And that's why it's so hard to win the Stanley Cup, because you have to do it every night for 2 months. And that's nearly impossible.
Yeah, you'd be basically perfect for 2 months.
Right. And that's where I think Toronto, at moments, Toronto looked dominating, especially offensively, especially how well and how quickly that team could move the puck. But when they got down and when you had to look at the details of their back checking, their defensive zone coverage, their turnovers in the defensive zone, all of those little plays added up. And that's why they didn't make it any farther again. Now you can argue they were the second best team in the Eastern Conference through the playoffs. And that may be true. And a puck bounce here or there, and they're continuing on in that series. But it's those puck bounces that Florida creates for themselves because they play the way they play. And that's where, if you're a Maple Leaf fan, you've got to start that game one. And game one, opening night, you've got to start. And that comes from accountability in the room, that we're going to play this way. We're no more of this. We're going to play like this, and we're going to throw it off the glass. And I think Craig Berube is the perfect guy to be the coach there for right now, because he can have that accountability. But until they get the accountability with the players and the guy sitting next to you, that, hey, dude, you got to, that's where the Florida took another step. You think if you don't back check on that bench or in that locker room, somebody's giving it to you? Are you out of your mind? And until somebody holds the teammate next to you accountable, I think that's one of the things that you need to see from their leadership group, not from the coaching staff, but from the leadership group inside the room. And I think that's going to be very important as Toronto moves forward in next year. Like, they've got to get that voice in the room to pull guys through the mud. And if you can't get drugged through the mud, you're not going to win.
Well, let me ask you this question. You've been around a lot of rooms. Is Austin Matthews the voice to do that?
I don't know. Like, I've met him a few times, and I know Austin. It's hard. You can be a quiet leader. There's no doubt you can be a quiet leader. I mean, Shane Doan was a quiet leader, but when Shane Doan was pushed against the wall and the team really needed someone to say something, Shane Doan said something. And I'm not sure that Austin Matthews, he's the best player on the team. He's the guy that's going to score the goal when you need a goal. He's the guy that when you need that power play goal or that big play, it's going to come from Austin Matthews. I'm not sure he's the guy in the room. I don't know. I'm not getting this signal that he is. Like, he's not the guy dragging them through, like I said, dragging through the mud. But you look in Florida, it's not Barkov, it's Tkachuk. And Tkachuk's the one that's pulling these guys through and yelling and screaming and being accountable. So it doesn't have to be the captain, but it's got to be somebody on the bench. It ain't Willie Nylander. Sorry, guys are gonna be all over me, but I think maybe that's where John Tavares is at.
A little credit though. Last year, not this playoffs, but last playoffs, he sat there and told them to stop effing crying.
Yeah,
get going.
And I think you're going to need it from every player, especially the best players. And I think that's one of the things Tavares can help with. And I want to see it more from Morgan Riley. And I think it's this veteran group now that they've grown up through the Maple Leafs organization now. And now this is it. Like, okay, we're big boys now. We're no longer kids. We don't have those excuses we've had before. We've talked about Marner's not in the room anymore. So we got to do this ourselves. And I really think it's going to be a matter of these guys being accountable to everybody in the room. And that means the stars have to call out the stars. And I think that's where you start to see what Florida did differently. And that's why you never bet against Florida in the playoffs. Even when they're down 2-0 to a really good hockey team, it's hard to go against them because in their room they believe. And Toronto needs that belief, and they're only going to get it by getting together and everybody pulling on the same rope.
What did Brad Marchand say when they were down 2-0? A little belief goes a long way.
And I tell you what, he's one of those guys that plays the right way. And he made a huge difference in going through that series. And he signed the big ticket. Now he's going to be 52, 53 when that thing's over. But again, to the point is, you need everybody doing the same thing. And I didn't get the sense of that in Toronto, even though Berube tried. And I think you could see the frustrated look on his face at times. And now it's going to be a different mix. There is no more. This may be an opportunity now for everybody. Everybody now. We don't have Mitch anymore. Marner's not the excuse anymore. Now we need to have everybody, because this is a team that didn't replace Mitch Marner. You have more players, but you're sure as hell ain't replacing 100-point Mitch Marner with the guys you brought in the line.
You're not replacing that guy. There is no replacing that guy. And again, I want to take this moment to say, anyone who is anointing Easton Cowan that guy because of what he's accomplished in junior, please pump the brakes, stop for a moment, let the kid get into the NHL. figure out his own game and play his own game, because a lot of people are saying that is a replacement. No, it is not. Let the kid flourish and don't make him the problem child if he's not the problem child, because he's going to go through his own growing pains and figuring it out his first couple of NHL seasons. But a lot of people want to anoint that. And I always keep saying it every episode now, but it feels like everybody keeps wanting to put him up on a pedestal. Let the kid get in. Let the kid play. Don't put all these expectations on him. And when he doesn't meet your expectations, say he's a bust. Because he's not going to be. I think Easton Callan will be good, but he needs his own time to grow.
Yeah, and I think the expectations for these young players to be immediate success on their teams, especially really good teams, I think that's a big ask. And I think when you look at the teams right now where you have the younger players that are more successful, let's call it like you see it. You look at Connor Bedard, the team's no good. And he's making a big impact. Macklin Celebrini's on a bad team. So they're getting those opportunities. It's hard to step into the Toronto Maple Leafs for a regular player, let alone a young kid. I just don't. I agree with you. I don't think it's fair. I think that going to be a really good player, but just not right now.
No, he's going to take time, and whether it's in the A or wherever he has to grow. But one guy that I do think is going to have a voice this season, and I kind of get the idea. He's got a little bit of swagger and a little bit of stick swagger, whatever you want to call it, is Matthew Knies. Yeah. I do think he's going to puff his chest out, and he'll be the Tkachuk-esque guy on this team that'll lead in hits, will score the goals, will do whatever he needs to do for his teammates, but he'll expect it at everybody else. And he'll be a guy to bark and yell. And I've seen it a little bit this season. Now that he signed a ticket to cement himself with this squad, I think he's going to even be more of a voice and a force in that team.
Yeah, I agree. And when you look at a kid like Matthew Knies, he does what you want him to do. He plays playoff hockey. Well, let's face it. It's 6'3", dude gets into the corners, gets to the front of the net, and more importantly, he can score. And he's got that. Like you said, he's got that swagger. And getting him locked up was a huge move for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think there are so many teams going back to the 2021 draft going, how in the hell did we miss this kid? How did we miss on Matty Knies? Because I tell you what, I think when you put him and Matthews together, they're absolutely dangerous, scoring threat every time on the ice. But he can also be that physical guy. I think he's a special player, and I think he is the exact type of player that can help you when you really need to win, starting in game 83 and on. And I think it was a huge, huge deal getting him locked up. So that kudos to Brad Treliving on getting Matty Knies locked up for years to come.
Yeah, like I said, I think this guy's going to be a vocal one for the Maple Leafs. Two players I want to ask you about here. We're going to talk about your guy from the Utah Mammoth in a moment, but I want to ask you, Leafs have been searching for a third line, fourth line, consistent center. They go get Roy, however it wants to be pronounced, because everybody has their own way of saying it. I want to know from you, is this guy kind of that bottom six center that we've been looking for, or is he just going to be another one of those revolving kind of casts that we've had the past few seasons?
It depends. And I know that's an unfair answer, but it depends who he's playing with. Because one thing about Roy is his ability to get to the net. I like the way he is around the blue paint and his ability to get to the net. One of the things, he just finds the puck. From the hash marks in, the puck finds, when he was wearing number 10 in Vegas, it would just find him. And you're surprised all of a sudden the puck, it's on his stick again. And his ability to finish when he's in tight. I know he's not a guy. Don't expect him to get 25 goals in Toronto. It's not going to happen. Can he get 20 in Toronto? I think he can. I think he is going to be a guy that can play both sides of the puck. I think he's going to bring a little bit of energy to that bottom six forward group. And yeah, I absolutely think he's going to help. And you're still looking at a guy, he's getting a little bit older. He's in his late 20s, but he's got a lot of experience. And I do think he's going to help. And it's funny because you look at all these projected lines, and that's nearly impossible to do at this time of year, by the way, is project lines. But I've seen him paired with Max Domi. I like that because Domi's kind of that same thing. He's going to use that energy and he's going to give that little spark to get pucks to the net. And I think Nicholas Roy can be a guy that can really keep up the pace with Domi and I think get pucks to the net. So yeah, I think he is going to be an effective player there, but effective for Toronto is different than effective for somebody else. And I think the expectations sometimes get so high when teams are better. You know, you look at Colorado or Vegas or Florida or Toronto, the expectations are so much higher that you put on players. I think Nicholas Roy just needs to be a good player. I think he needs to be a good third line center that can go up and down the ice and not be a negative player and not being a negative on the score sheet every night. And if he can do that, then I think it's a big win for Toronto.
Yeah, I've been penciling this guy, and not even for the goals or anything like that. More of a defensive-minded kind of guy. I'm hoping for. Obviously, I want to see him on the penalty kill. That's something the Leafs really need to make sure continues to go forward, and I think he will be a guy for that. The other guy, like I said in my cold intro, I cannot pronounce his name. I will not
Matias
attempt to.
Michelli. Matias Michelli. I really like Matias Michelli. I like him a lot. And I tell you what, when you go back and look at his numbers in his last 2 seasons at Arizona before they moved to Utah, he was a significant contributor in their offense. He had a consistent line with Lawson Krause and Nick Bugstead, and they were a third line that could play in any situation. They could bring you offense. They could shut down teams defensively because he could skate. Then the move to Utah happened, and they had to play on different lines, and Bugstead was hurt, and Krause couldn't get his mojo going and couldn't get his offensive game going. So Michelli couldn't deliver him the puck because he wasn't scoring. And then Michelli finds himself on the fourth line, and now he's not contributing on the fourth line. And then he finds himself in the press box. And I think the big message for Leafs fans on Matias Michelli, I've seen, oh my gosh, wait till you get him with Matthews. Just keep we've talked about pumping the brakes. Pump the brakes a little bit on Matias Michelli. He sat out 20 of the last 25 games for the Utah Hockey Club that was nowhere near the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, I think he's a really good player. I think he can distribute the puck, and I'm not kidding. He is an elite puck mover, but he's the best puck mover in Utah. Like, his ability to make passes over sticks, through people, between legs. His vision is almost like he has eyes in the back of his head at several moments during a game. He can move the puck. Now, can he win all the battles along the wall? Probably not. Does he need somebody else to help him do the job? Absolutely. But I think what Toronto Maple Leafs fans have to be careful about is thinking that he is the automatic heir to the Marner throne, that he is going to be distributing the puck to Austin Matthews game one. Now, he might be. He might be just by default. He might be the guy, only because they don't have anybody else in that position. And then you have to look at a McDavid Draisaitl thing where, hey, it's McDavid Draisaitl and somebody else. Well, it's Nyes Matthews and somebody else. And the somebody else to start might be Matias Michelli. But here's the thing that happened to him in Utah. He really lost his confidence. The coaching staff no longer believed in him. He couldn't do anything right. And when you get like that inside a locker room and a coach doesn't believe that you can do your job anymore, it is hard to play. And it is everything you do is every little mistake in practice matters. And it's hard. And you start beating yourself up. And I think if Matias Michelli can get into Toronto and have some positive feedback from the fan base, from the players, from management, from the coach, this kid's got a really good toolbox. And I'm telling you, you're going to see him on probably not on the PP1 right away, but you're going to see him getting power play time. He is that good of a puck distributor. And I predict by December or January, he will be in that top 6 group, and he's going to be a big factor in getting people the puck. I do think he is going to be a guy. I think his contract is 51 points and make the playoffs. That's going to happen. Like, he's going to get 51 points on this team. I'm not worried about that at all.
I see. Now I'm going to pronounce it right. Michelli.
Yep,
doing
Michelli.
well for the Leafs. Now, I look at this and say, for me, in my mind, I don't see him line 1 right away. I see him on line 2 with William Nylander, John Tavares.
Yep.
For whatever reason, I'm feeling Max Domi might be up higher in the lineup, just where he had that dishing experience with Matthews before. That might be something they go back to, a callback to that. And it doesn't mean that he won't move up to that spot eventually. But I think players like Willie and JT might be where he fits in, where he can dish the puck and get open, do different things and help guys. Willie with his speed, that might be more suited to what he does. And, we know Willie can score, so that might open that ice up and help him out where he can dish the puck in ways that maybe people haven't been able to Willie before outside of a Mitch Marner. So that might be something that really helps Michelli out.
If Toronto can acquire another right wing, and they may by opening night, you hear all the rumors, or they might add Kadri, but you don't know. If they add another,
looking at Roslovic, apparently he's holding out to be a Maple Leaf, from what Elliot Friedman's saying. So.
Now, I'm
not excited about that, to be honest.
You're not? I like Roslovic, and I think that he's a guy that can help that team right now. But I stick with you on Michelli. Michelli's going to make a difference on this team. I want everybody to be patient with him, because it's going to take him a minute. And he had a tough season in Utah, and it's hard to rebound from that. But when you talk about Nylander, Nylander likes to leave the zone early. We got to get him on a stretch pass. Somebody's got to give him the puck. Well, Michelli can make that pass. He can make the 60-foot pass. He can make the 60-foot pass through sticks. He can. Like he's that elite, and that's where I'll do my little plug. I did a little video on him. Make sure you go watch it because you'll get to see his plays in action and his ability to move the puck like that. And I think people that don't know him will be surprised at how well he moves the puck. So I agree, and I think what Matthews and Nyes will do then, and I do think if the lineup started today, and you got to play a game today, I do think it's Max Domi. And partly because I just think he can handle it right now, and he can handle playing with Matthews and Nyes. I think he can keep up with the pace. I think he can get the puck out of the corners. I think he can bring that little grit to that line, and Nyes on the other side bringing some grit. So I do think that to start, and then they're going to pull the best defenders in the opponent, and that might give Michelli, Tavares, and Nylander an opportunity to get the next best defenders on your opponent. And I think it's going to give them more opportunities. So I do think he's going to have success there. And I do think he is a guy that is going to be a better player in Toronto than he was in Utah. It's about fit. And he just didn't fit in Utah. So it's a good play. It's a good move for him personally. And I think it's a really good move for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to him jumping into this lineup and having contribution. Like you said, confidence is key. It goes a long way.
Yep.
Whether you're a goaltender, defenseman, forward, it doesn't matter. If someone's believing in your game and you're feeling pumped up about it, we hear it all season long, guys. Gripping the stick too tight. Yeah. Or, he's going through it because the confidence isn't there. Puck is skipping on him, this, that, and the other stuff. So hopefully this guy comes in, fresh scenery, new guys, everybody snapping it around, having fun, coming into this lineup. But I want to ask you about this team as a whole right now. There's a lot of pundits in Toronto making articles saying the Toronto Maple Leafs are not going to be a playoff team this season because of Mitch Marner leaving. I say nay. This team is going to be a playoff team. They have a decent goaltending tandem, not elite, but decent. The back end is probably the best defense they've had in a long while for this squad. And they have room to make moves in forward groups, which they can do, and players to still try out and get into this roster. But I do see this team as a playoff team. Am I crazy?
Well, first of all, those are two separate questions, James, because the answer to the second one is an absolute yes. You are crazy. But is it a playoff team? Absolutely, it's a playoff team. Are you in your mind? Like, come on. The Toronto Maple Leafs, now are they a Stanley Cup championship team? Right now on paper, probably not. But are they a playoff team and a potential team that can compete for a Stanley Cup? Absolutely. And I like Mitch Marner. I do. I think Marner's an exceptional player at the way Marner plays. I mean, he's a 100-point player, and he makes the plays, the little plays that hardly anybody in this league can make, Mitch Marner can make. But is he the guy that's the difference between the Toronto Maple Leafs winning a Stanley Cup and not winning? No, we've seen he's not. He's not. We've seen it year after year. He's not. So it's okay that Mitch Marner's gone. It's okay. He got 2 goals last year. He had 1 the year before that in the playoffs. Like, it's fine. He's not the difference between this team making a Stanley Cup run or not making it. They need a player that can play hard minutes, that plays the right way all the time, that does the things we talked about, chipping the puck off the glass, back checking, lifting up a stick in the defensive zone. And I'm not convinced that that's the things that Mitch Marner did. He's a guy that can dig the puck off the wall and deliver it to the front of the net exceptionally well. He can go high in the offensive zone and feather a puck through to the opposing goaltender for rebounds and screens. Absolutely, he's that guy. But he's not the guy that carried this Toronto Maple Leafs into the playoffs. He's not. So Toronto is, not only are they a playoff team, they are a team that can go deep in the playoffs as is right now on paper. Without a doubt, their goaltending has to be good, but everybody's does. I like you talked about their defending. They've got more balanced scoring than a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference. Are you kidding? The problem isn't trying to compete in the playoffs. There is only one goal for every team in the East, and it's how do we stack up against Florida? And if you have to play Florida in a 7-game series tomorrow, Toronto is going to lose. And that's I still believe they need another player up front. And it's got to be a guy that can play that kind of hockey. And does Jack Roslovic help this team? I think he helps. I'm not sure he gets you over the Florida hump, but he puts you in the conversation then. I still think they need some help to get over Florida, but without a doubt, no question, none at all, this Toronto Maple Leafs team is a playoff team.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. Maybe crazy, but I do believe like
you are, James.
You have to be a little crazy to want to do this all the time.
That is true.
But
fair.
I look at the Maple Leafs and say they are a playoff team. They are built to it. They lost Mitch Marner, yes, but like you said, it wasn't Mitch Marner that carried and drugged this team to the playoffs. They have a new guy as well in Matthew Nyes, who's coming into his own as a megastar for this team. Yep. He is one of an elite handful of players who can play the physical brand, score, and still keep on chugging. I think it was him to Chuck and Tom Wilson last season that were in that kind of elite category where you have over 130 hits, I think it was, or something like that, plus the goals. He was one off of that mark for 30. This guy is money in the bank to me. And the way he played in the playoffs, that was stuff that got you excited because it was the physical play. It was the breaking out and the skating that everybody was kind of down on for him. He really seemed to learn how to get some separation going too. So that made me excited. But I look at this team and say, for once, they're heading into a season not in LTIR. They're heading into a season right now. If they don't sign Roslovic, they have $5.3 million in cap space.
Yep.
That is something they haven't had before. So they have the opportunity, shall we say, to add properly. The LTIR thing is going away. And I think the Leafs are usually ahead of curves when it comes to manipulating the cap and doing things. I think they want to kind of learn this season how to go forward without the LTIR, with having a playoff roster ready, because those are things that are coming. And you have to learn and adapt and get ready for it. So why not do it before it happens?
Yeah. And you're looking at a team right now, it's surprising at this time of year that we're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs with cap space. I mean, it's something unheard of for this team. And I do think you're right. If they don't sign Roslovic, or they don't trade for Rust, or you don't find a way to get Kadri done, that you've got an opportunity in the first 20 games. I mean, I think that this is, maybe it's even the trade deadline, and you can add now, dude, you can add at the trade deadline and you have money to spend. Look out. And I think that those are things, that's a luxury that this franchise hasn't had in a very long time. And so I do think they can wait. Now, if they have the right player comes up that I think Trey Living thinks he can add to this group before October, well, he's going to do that for sure. But to go into the regular season and having money in the bank and a team that I think is an exceptional team in the Eastern Conference as is, you're in good shape. And no one really knows which way the season's going to go. Remember last year's free agency last summer? Who won? Well, the Nashville. They got Marchessault and Stamkos and Brady Shea. And oh my goodness, look at Nashville, what they did in the summer, and they were rotten. Yeah. So you don't know how these teams, we talked about, oh, hey, Marner's going to Vegas and they're going to be great. Well, wait. Like we don't know how Marner's going to fit in there. Can he get Eichel the puck? Is Eichel going to have another great year like he did? Is the Vegas goaltending good enough? Like, just wait. Like, all of these acquisitions that happened over the last 30 days, we can say look great on paper. But until they get on the ice, we don't know.
Back in the day when they signed Yager and Richter and Shanahan, all those players, you thought this team was going to be a world
unbelievable.
Beater.
Yep. You just don't know. You don't know. Mesh. You don't know how they're going to go. And so that's why when you look at Toronto, and that's why you look at what they've added. Like Matias Maccelli is just a small piece, and the expectations are low. So he's just going to exceed those expectations.
One of those players that Florida adds that other teams have 100%
agree. And he can play up and down the lineup.
Yeah. Well, that you also take a gamble on. That's not a player that's a $5-6 million guy right now, but it's a gamble that other teams have given up on. That's where Florida kind of struck gold with some guys.
I agree. I think it's a really good pickup for Toronto. I'm excited to see the kid play there. I really am. But I'm not ready.
So one player that I'm excited for the Maple Leafs that they had, and I want to see him with Morgan Riley. I said it earlier in the episode. People want to see him out of town for some reason. They're saying this is a great piece to trade. It's Brendan Carlo, and for me, I'm like, why? Why do we want to do this? This defense looks great. Why do you want to move Brendan Carlo and weaken something that looks like for once is going to be a strength? And you can build on your forward group other ways. But why is his name being bantied about? Why?
Yeah, I like Brendan Carlo, and I like him in Toronto. I thought he was great in the playoffs. I think he added an element that you could feel you could throw out how many pairs of defensemen for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs. As a matter of fact, defending was not an issue for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, if there's some turnovers down the lineup, but I won't talk about that. But Brendan Carlo, I thought was an exceptional defenseman for this team, and I think it's something that they need. I'm not sure what the thought process would be to move on from him, and I guess it's always, well, we can get better. And I don't know what, you were talking about Carlson from Pittsburgh earlier in the show, buddy. I'll take 5 Brendan Carlos over Erik Karlsson all day. He does not help the Toronto Maple Leafs. Period.
Nope.
Period. Nope. We talk about doing the little things right. Dude doesn't. He doesn't do anything right. I do not like Erik Karlsson at all. People that know me well know I'm not a fan. And so when you win, we talk about doing things the right way. You don't all need to be flashy. You don't need a defenseman to score 20 goals a season. You need a defenseman that can defend. And you need a big, strong, tall defenseman that can go out there and play the right way and that can move the puck up the ice. And I thought Brandon Carlo did all those things for Toronto in the playoffs. I think this is exactly what you're looking for. If you want to succeed in the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs, you want a big right-handed defenseman that can move the puck. Well, that's what Brandon Carlo does.
What have they been looking
I don't know.
for?
Yeah, I don't know what the need to move on from him is. I hope that they don't. I think he's a player that can be a very valuable player when the playoffs start, and I think he's a guy that you need to stick with through the first 82. So we'll see.
Well, the reason I like him the most is, like I said earlier too, the revolving cast of players playing with Morgan Riley. I would like to see him have a steady defense partner and allow his game to flourish the way that it usually does. And I think if he has that in Carlo and that consistency, we see Mo be Mo.
Yeah. And he is going to this team on the back end is going to go as far as Morgan Riley goes. When he is, let's face it, he is the star on the back end, but he does those things right. We talk about the little details of the game being done right. Morgan Riley plays that way, and he plays with that grit and that fire and that belief system. And I do think Brandon Carlo is a guy that can keep up with his pace. I think he's a guy that can move the puck with Morgan Riley. I think he's a guy that helps Morgan Riley out defensively. So I think it's a great pair, and it's a pair you can feel confident on the ice against anybody in the National Hockey League. And so I like Carlo, and I think he fits there, and I do see him being there on opening night.
Yeah, me as well. I'm just hoping that there's not, again, when teams think they can upgrade and make a better move, what are the Brian Rust and getting Erik Karlsson at the same time? Somehow you make all that money and stuff work. Maybe that's where their head is, or maybe it's getting Nazem Kadri back and you send him over there, and somehow you get Erasmus Anderson in the deal too, and it's just this big convoluted trade that ends up being cool. That's what everybody's looking at online. For me, I'm happy with the back end. I'm happy with the goaltending. We have money to fix the forward group if it needs fixing, but right now I want to see it roll out the way it is, because one name nobody is saying, and he seemed to get more comfortable as the playoffs went along, is Scott Laughton. Mm-hmm. I think he is going to be a great player in the bottom six for the Maple Leafs, great on the penalty kill. But once he acclimated to Toronto, it really seemed like his game was starting to elevate. And I wish we had more playoff runway, because I think he was a guy that really could have been something special for them on that run. But we will see it this season. Full 82 of him. I think there's lots in the tank for that guy.
Yeah, but there were nights in the playoffs where Laughton and Yarncroc and Lawrence, they were some of the best players on the Toronto Maple Leafs at stretches.
That line, yeah.
Because they were so effective on the forecheck and they were so good along the walls. And you're right. It is that bottom six that makes a difference. And the problem that you get into when you talk about those bigger name players, be careful with Kadri too. Like, Kadri's 34, played top line minutes for Calgary. His numbers are a little inflated because of the ice time he was getting on the team he was on. He's not going to play that role for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So where are your expectations with him? You talk about Erik Karlsson. That's just a name. I don't know what you're getting there. And I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are worse with Erik Karlsson. I think he's one of the guys. He's one of the guys that would sink the ship. And I think
they're worse with Nazem Kadri. Like, I say Kadri as it's what's out there being talked about. For me, if it was a sweetheart cheap deal, that Kadri was signing for the Leafs just to come here, I'm for it. But to give up assets,
you can't
for that cap space, it's not for me.
No, because now you're looking up the middle of the ice. We've got Matthews, Tavares, and Kadri. Like, you're looking at the San Jose Sharks have three guys up the middle that are 22 or younger. Like, okay, we'll eat up Tavares and Kadri. I'm not sure that's the right fit right now. I really don't. And I know people are excited about the addition and thinking of him coming back home, but I see the same Kadri at 34 that he was at 33. I don't know. And I think you're right. When you talk about a player like Scott Laughton, you know what you're getting with Scott Laughton. You know what kind of effort you're going to get from Scott Laughton. You know what kind of compete level you're going to get with him. And you need those guys to win. It's not always the name that you recognize. It's the names that you don't that win you a Stanley Cup. And I've said that with Florida for 2 years now. It's their bottom six that make the difference for the Florida Panthers. It is. And I think for Toronto, you've got to keep that group together. And I think you've got to find that hungry work ethic guys. And I think they've got that right now. So be careful with the Kadri one, because I'm not sure where he fits or how he fits in this lineup.
Yeah, I don't see him fitting, but I'm excited to get the season going. Obviously, schedule drop, like we said, happened today. So we got our first little taste and tidbits. I'm looking forward to the summer, having you on closer to training camp when we know more what the Leafs are going to be doing. But I want everybody to take a moment and follow my guy, Petey, here. The videos he does for breakdowns are awesome. Everything he does, you see him everywhere right now. He's on all kinds of different podcasts, breaking it down. I love him. He's great. He's absolutely awesome to talk to. Very flexible as well. So, folks, go give him a follow, Petey. Tell the folks where they can find you because I want to make sure your stuff is getting out there as much as possible.
Sure. I highly recommend people go over to Inside the Coaches Room on YouTube because they did put out that video of Matthias Michelli. So you can see what he is, who he is, and what difference he's going to make to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I do it with video, so you can actually see it with your own eyes. So check out Inside the Coaches Room on YouTube, and then you can follow me on S. Peters Hockey on X.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So another episode of Offside in your ears. We'll be back again, hopefully Sunday night, tiredness permitting. But looking forward to having another great guest on, like my friend right here, Petey. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Offside Hockey Talk, where the Maple Leafs and hockey, we come to talk.
Going to the gym can be discouraging, especially if you're putting in the work but barely seeing changes. But with Tonal, you can actually see your progress with every workout. Tonal provides the convenience of a full gym and the expertise of a personal trainer anytime at home with one sleek system. Designed to reduce your mental load, Tonal is the ultimate strength training system, helping you focus less on workout planning and more on getting results. No more second-guessing your technique. Tonal gives you real-time coaching cues to dial in your form and help you lift safely and effectively. After a quick assessment, Tonal sets the optimal weight for every move and adjusts in 1 pound increments as you get stronger, so you're always challenged. Tonal lets you choose from a variety of expert-led workouts, from strength to aero hit to yoga and mobility to keep you coming back for more. For a limited time, go to Tonal.com to get $500 off your Tonal purchase, plus a free 4-year warranty. That's Tonal.com for $500 off, plus a free 4-year warranty. Tonal.com.